खोजो 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 खोजो
Good evening, good evening. Good evening, Delhi. Good, good evening, book lovers. All those of you who have come to the Arth Festival. मुझे यहाँ आकर बहुत खुशी होती है. जब मैं अब मेरा इंटरव्यूअर नहीं आया, वो भी ट्रैफिक में फंसा, मैं भी भागा भागा दौड़ा दौड़ा आ रहा था, अपना नाम वहाँ से सुन रहा था. खैर पहुँच गया. अभी सांस थोड़ा इतना फूला ना हो तो ज़्यादा बात कर सकता हूँ. खैर मेरी परवरिश यहीं हुई थी. मैं निज़ामुद्दीन में रहता था. दिल्ली का लड़का हूँ मैं. जी हाँ, दिल्ली का लड़का. दिल हमेशा दिल्ली में रहा है. निज़ामुद्दीन में पढ़ता था और यहाँ हुमायूं स्टू में आया करता था, अक्सर आया करता था. और मेरा स्कूल भी यहाँ दिल्ली पब्लिक स्कूल, वो भी बहुत करीब था यहाँ के. और जब भी मैं स्कूल स्किप करता था तो हुमायूं स्टू में आया करता था. यहाँ के पौधे मुझे बहुत अच्छे लगते थे, झाड़ पत्ते दरख्त, और ऑफ कोर्स द फैंटास्टिक आर्किटेक्चर ऑफ Humayun's tomb, which left a great memory for me in my Delhi days, because this was where I grew up. तो मैं समझिए घर लौटा हूँ और ये बहुत ही खुशी का अवसर है मेरे लिए. हर बार दिल्ली आता हूँ बहुत खुश होता हूँ और हुमायूंस टू आना बहुत ख़ास चीज़ है. और अर्थ फिल्म फेस्टिवल में ये जो मुझे अवसर दिया है आने का, मैं बहुत ही आभारी हूँ कि मुझे यहाँ बुलाया गया है. हाँ? Is Ajay here?
No, but Vikram is joining us for the book launch.
Okay. तो अभी मैंने अपनी आत्मकथा लिखी है, Stories I Must Tell, The Emotional Life of an Actor. ये मेरे दिल की कहानी है. दिल से कही है. किस तरह मैंने हॉलीवुड, बॉलीवुड, यूरोप की सिनेमा का रोमांचक उतार चढ़ाव कैसे पार किया, कैसे सरवाइव किया, क्या विजय प्राप्त की मैंने, क्या ट्रेजेडीज़ हुई मेरी ज़िंदगी में, क्या क्या मैंने दिल्ली से सीखा, क्या क्या यहाँ बीती मेरे साथ. बम्बई गया, बॉलीवुड, थिएटर, फिर बॉलीवुड, इटली, बहुत सी चीज़ें. तो ये किताब दिल से लिखी गई है. और मैं मानता हूँ कि जो भी आजकल के नौजवान हैं, नई जनरेशन है, all of them, all of you will learn not just of my life but the times that I have lived through, the 60s and the whole world revolution of pop culture, social culture, political change, हिंदुस्तान में क्या हुआ, अब्रॉड क्या हुआ. तो बहुत सी चीज़ें मैंने लिखी हैं. And I must say, I'm very grateful that my book has been very successful. It won the Amazon Most Popular Book of the Year award in biographies. Thank you for that. It was a national bestseller. The Italian edition won the Book of the Year at the Venice Film Festival, which is no small achievement. And the Hindi and Marathi editions have also come out. The Hindi edition is Kahi Ankahi, and that is also उसकी translation, उसका अनुवाद भी बहुत ही बढ़िया किया गया है. और जो भी हिंदी पढ़ने वाले हैं, ज़रूर हिंदी एडिशन तो पढ़िए, क्योंकि इसमें दिल की बात है, दर्द की बात है, ट्रेजेडीज, ट्रायम्फ्स, एवरीथिंग. बट वो सब इंटरव्यू जब होगा कुछ उसकी चर्चा करूँगा. लेकिन अभी बुक लॉन्च हो रहा है, तो प्लीज़ सपोर्ट माय बुक एंड स्प्रेड द वर्ड. गॉड ब्लेस यू ऑल. थैंक यू दिल्ली. ये अजय जैन साहब हैं, जिनका कुंजम बुक शॉप ग्रेटर कैलाश में है. वो भी बहुत बुक लवर हैं, किताबों और बुक लवर्स की बहुत सेवा करते हैं. कई बुक शॉप्स हैं दिल्ली में और मैं बहुत खुश हूँ कि मैंने इनसे मुलाकात की और मुलाकात के बाद कई चीज़ें हुई यहाँ और गुड़गांव वगैरह इनकी वजह से. So all book lovers should thank Ajay Jain for what he is doing with his Kunzum bookshops.
Thank you so much. I thought it was about you and not about me. But
No,
that's very,
I
that's
cannot
very
have
gracious
anything.
of you.
Thank you. Is your microphone working?
Yeah, can you hear me? Okay, wonderful, wonderful.
Great, great.
Right? So, so Kabir, we'll hit the ground running.
Let's hit the ground running, yeah.
Yeah. So I see a lot of young people in the audience, right? I think I see a lot of college students, university students. All of you just give a big cheer.
All
Wonderful.
right,
Thank
all
you so
right.
much.
I like that.
So, we are going to, we are going to go back in time and we are going to talk to the 21-year-old Kabir Bedi. What do you say, Kabir?
That's a good place to begin because we'll talk about a time when I was your age.
So, Kabir, if you were to talk to your 21-year-old today, what's the advice you would give yourself for a career in that your career?
I'd give myself a lot of advice, but let me explain what I was when I was 20 years or 21 years old. 20 years old, in fact. My parents had sacrificed a lot for the Indian freedom struggle. There is a separate story in my book, as one chapter, an amazing story of amazing people. Basically, they sacrificed a lot for the freedom of the country. So they were very rich intellectually, culturally, in terms of the friends they had, the books they read, the cause they fought for, but they had no money. And money was always a big problem. So while they sacrificed to get me a good education, and that education got me into St. Stephen's College, I didn't have money to pay the fees. So I had to work my way through college. And the way I did that was by freelancing with All India Radio. Now, I was also, I'm talking about the mid-60s here. I was also the biggest fan in the world of the Beatles. And I heard one day that the Beatles had come to town. And they were staying at the Oberoi Intercontinental Hotel, which is right here, next to us. And I went to my boss and said, I'm going to interview the Beatles. अरे क्या बात कर रहे हो पूरी प्रेस उनके पीछे पड़ी है तुम कहाँ हैं तुम्हें कैसे देंगे इंटरव्यू क्यों दें अच्छा साहब मुझे टेप रिकॉर्डर दीजिए बिल्ला दीजिए मैं कोशिश तो करूं नहीं I said sir please आपका क्या जाता है मुझे टेप रिकॉर्डर दीजिए ना so finally they gave me this tape recorder I went to the Oberoi Intercontinental all kinds of reporters in the lobby etc everyone looking for the Beatles I was a Beatles fan and I knew the manager was Brian Epstein. So I was looking for the manager in the restaurants. I was not looking for the Beatles, just the manager. Eventually, 2 hours later, I saw him come down the lift with one member of the hotel, and he was walking across the lawn, across the lobby to his car. And I accosted him. I said, Mr. Epstein, Kabir Bedi here, All India Radio. Yes. I said, sir, the government have scheduled an interview with the Beatles tonight at 10 o'clock. He said, what? I said, yes, sir, the government have scheduled an interview with the Beatles tonight at 10 o'clock. They've announced it. It was a bit of a white lie, but fibs do nobody any harm. So he said, the boys will not give any interview to anybody. I said, sir, but, and I knew that they'd just come from Manila. And in Manila, they'd had a problem with the government. Because the dictator at the time, Ferdinand Marcos, had invited them to this palace after their concert to say, come sing to my children, sing happy birthday to my children. And they refused. When they refused, he got angry and they were literally thrown out of the country, manhandled at the airport and everything. And being a Beatles fan, I knew what had happened. So I kept stressing the government angle. I said, sir, I'm a fan of the Beatles. If they don't give an interview, it'll get very bad for them. I don't want them to suffer. I'm a big fan. The boys will not do any interview. I will give the bloody interview. I thought, fantastic. Brian Epstein's good enough for me. So when I went up, so I fixed the time for the interview, etc. In the evening, I went up to his room, and he opened the door, and he was looking absolutely deathly. He was in a hotel robe, sweating, not well. And I said, good evening, sir. Kabir Bedi, All India Radio. He said, oh, God, I can't do this. So I said, sir, government have announced it. He said, wait a minute. He slammed the door in my face, came back, had put some trousers on, etc. He came back, caught my hand, took me across the floor of the Oberoi Intercontinental to the suite at the other end of the floor. I knocked on the door, and Paul McCartney opened the door, and he said, boys, do me a favor, give this chap an interview. And there I was, in the room with the four Beatles, and I was in heaven. I was in heaven. Because the Beatles were not just great musicians. Yes, they were part of a great musical revolution with the Doors and the Rolling Stones and the Fleetwood Mac and Bob Dylan and Joan Baez and all the whole shebang that performed at Woodstock 2 years later. But they were part of that generation. And they epitomized the whole hippie culture, the whole new wave of openness and sexuality and social change. So to be in the room with the Beatles was to be in the room with the icons of the age. And of course, I did the interview. Now, what I said in the interview, etc., I haven't got time to narrate it here because Ajay is here. And there's lots of ground we have to cover. You can read it in my book. But the fallout to this interview was, after broadcasting it, when I went to get a copy of the interview, they couldn't find it. All India Radio. I said, what happened? It turned out that because they had no money for tapes, they were so badly funded those days, they had recorded somebody else's interview over the Beatles interview. And I was so crestfallen. It so shattered me that my Beatles interview had been erased after being broadcast, that I said, I can't work here anymore. There were some other things that had happened also, but I said, I can't work here anymore. So, and with 700 rupees in my pocket, I caught a train and I left to make a new fortune in the city called Bombay. So that's chapter 1 of my book. So my advice to the 20-year-old Kabir that did that interview would be, your spirit was good, you did the right thing, and you followed your heart and you did the right course. So no advice for the 20-year-old. Lots of advice for the 70-year-old, but not to the 20-year-old.
So I think all of us have been like 18, 19, 20, 21, and we've got great aspirations, we've got dreams, we want to do great stuff. We see film stars, we see authors, we see, different stars, and we want to be like one of them. But behind every star, behind every glamorous thing that you do, I'm sure there's a lot of hard work, perseverance, determination, sacrifices that go, right? So it's not easy, right? Being at the top, reaching the top, no matter how glamorous, how famous you are, it must not be easy, right? So that's what the young people need to know.
No, I'm sure they know that. I'm sure they're very bright. Today's generation is very bright. They know everything. They know far more than we ever knew because they have far more access to information. And they're just brighter. But what I want to say is that it is true that if you're a celebrity of any kind, any shape, size, or description, the demands on your time are constant. It's bloody hard work being a star. Wonderful being a star for all the benefits and the perks and the money and the lifestyle, etc. But it is unremitting and unrelenting work. You could be Shah Rukh Khan at the top of your popularity today, he won't have 1 minute of his own time. So, yes, it's hard work, but I guess it's worth it because that's what they worked for. That's what they want. But having said that, even if you're a minor celebrity, constant demands from appearances, relatives, functions, producers, weddings, then of course your work and your personal life. So everyone is time challenged. In this world today, everyone is time challenged. Every single one of these people is time challenged because there's so many options as to what they can do. But a celebrity is often pulled away from the more pleasurable aspects of life because of all the things he must do as a celebrity.
Would somebody like some dating advice from Kabir Bedi? Do you want some dating advice? You have some dating advice for the young people here?
I don't know about any dating advice. I've had enough marriages and divorces behind me. I'm not the best expert on giving advice on relationships. But I will only say one thing. For all my marriages and divorces, number one, I have found a wonderful woman today who I've been with for 17 years, and it's been deeply satisfying to find the relationship that I want. One. Two, that no matter what, somehow I managed to stay friends with all my ex-wives. Every single one of them. And it's possible. There's no such thing as a painless parting. Partings are always very, very, very painful. But once that's passed, if you've been honorable, if you met your obligations, if you recognize and remember what drew you to that person in the first place, there's no reason you can't be friends. In my book, if you buy my book, you will see there's a picture with my ex-wife Nikki sitting under a Christmas tree together with my American ex-wife Ishel and Pratima, all under a Christmas tree having dinner together. Buy my book and you'll see what I mean. They're all friends of mine.
So the copies of the book are available at the Kunzum stall here. And if Kabir stays on, we're going to get some signed copies from him.
I'd be very happy to sign any copies and personalize them to you if you come to the bookstall after this chat.
So it's all right here.
Right here, Kunzum bookstall.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Kabir, you said stories I must tell. Why must tell? Why not I can tell or I should tell, but why must? What was so important to you that you had to tell these stories?
Well, Ajay, nobody knows my story. Nobody. No, firstly, nobody's seen all my films. Because for all the films I've done in Bollywood, people here might have seen them. You haven't seen all, you might have seen some big things I did in America, like the James Bond film Octopussy, or Bold and Beautiful, which I did for 1 year. But most of my television series that I did in America, nobody's seen. And nobody's seen all the work I did in Italy, which is actually the bulk of my work. And they've honored me greatly for my work in Italy. So firstly, nobody knows even my film work. And then nobody knows my personal stories, the emotional stories, relationships, all kinds of dramas that happened in my life, the emotional highs and lows. And I came to a point where I said, if I don't tell my story now, when will I tell it? And if I don't tell it, who will? So when the pandemic began, I thought this is a fantastic opportunity. Cut out the noise, sat down, I wrote like a maniac. A year and a half later, I had the book. And then I asked a few friends for their advice, rewrote a few portions, and literally within 2 years, the book was published. So this is a story of a life, of a very adventurous life. If you ever wonder what it is to lead an adventurous life and the dangers of an adventurous life and a freelance life, you can read it. Today, when I see young people moving jobs in the tech industry continuously, one job, then they left it, they moved to another one, they left it, I think they're almost like freelancers. They are serially employed, but really they have the spirit of freelancers because they just move. And incidentally, because my son, Siddharth, was a techie, this book is dedicated to all the techies and the new worlds they want to build.
So I think the young feel, we used to feel, we're going to stay young forever. How do you stay young forever?
Positivity. Stay positive, you'll stay young. We all have dreams. We all want to achieve things in our life. We all want to express our creativity in different ways. Doesn't matter who you are. Doesn't matter, you can be a banker, doctor, insurance. There's a creative part of you. And constantly in our life, we are surrounded by people that are negative. People that pull other people down. People that say, ye theek nahi hai, wo theek nahi hai, ye kab karoge, waise karoge, arre kahan jaoge, kaise, this kind of negativity that wears you down. And so, two things. One is, try and minimize the influence of such people in your lives. Minimize, spend the least time you can with them. And secondly, your creativity, your own creativity, comes from your positivity. If you believe in your positivity, if you believe in your dreams, if you want to express things, you want to do things, focus on that. You know, actually, when you're young, you think you live forever. The fact is, every day has only 24 hours. We all live those 24 hours. And each day can be filled with distractions. And it's very important to tell yourself, like Obama said, yes, we will, yes, we can. Yes, I will, yes, I can. And be positive. Be positive. Be a source of positivity to people. When people see you coming, they should think, he's going to give us some joy. Not that, oh God, here he comes, he's going to complain again and duck inside. You know. We need to remember that there is an importance to life, to all the beautiful things, creative things, positive things. And how you do that takes effort. It doesn't come automatically. It's a decision you have to make, and you can do it. And you should.
And if someone were to make a biopic on you or a Netflix series, who amongst all the actors in the world today, who would you think would do justice to being Kabir Bedi on screen?
Kabir Bedi. But fact is, I have had some offers for my book. I have not made a decision yet. But hopefully when my book finds a home and a biopic is made on me, it will be a very fascinating biopic. But I will not interfere in the decisions of the producer or the director in terms of who they choose and how they choose to make this film. Because my job is to tell my story. How they put it on screen is their job. Because, you know, in my life I have seen many film conflicts occur because the writer says, I didn't mean this, I didn't think that, why are you making it like this? And the director's life becomes hell. Producer's life becomes hell. So, if you trust the people you sold the rights to as having integrity, having vision, having the ability to make a good film, leave them to it, they'll do it. So I won't predict who should be or can be or would be best, because that's their job, not mine.
So, you know, like the general perception about you, right, a lot of people is you're a ladies' man. But I think more than that, what comes out in your book is you're a family man. You know, we don't have too much time, but tell us something about your relationship with your parents and your children.
Well, I have had a lot of relationships in my life. And I have had met and been with some truly wonderful women in my life. And my whole success of Sandokan in Italy, which made me a megastar in Europe, that I shared with Parveen Babi because she came with me. And there were many consequences to that as well, all in the book. But like I said, if I just wanted to be a bachelor and have all the fun, why would I get married? Why would I get married 4 times? Am I a glutton for punishment? I like the idea of sharing. I like the idea of family. I like the idea of people being together and sharing the joy of this journey on this planet Earth together. So, absolutely, I accept there were many relationships. Most of them gave me much, and I thank them for it. But you talk about my parents. Now, my parents, you know, the chapter on my parents alone is worth the price of the book. Because here were people, I won't get into the details of it. In synthesis, 2 Oxford graduates gave up all the possibilities of the best jobs in India, joined the freedom struggle. My mother was picked by Mahatma Gandhi to lead the Satyagraha in our hometown in Punjab, Dera Baba Nanak. My father was a rabble-rousing communist trade union leader. Both were imprisoned for their time for trying to struggle for India's independence. Both suffered greatly, economically, financially, etc. But eventually, after freedom was attained, my father became a philosopher and lived most of his life in Italy. My mother became a Buddhist, and then, by the end of her life, became the highest ranked Buddhist nun in the world. These are remarkable stories. And what's even more important is the relationship of love and respect which existed to the end between my father and mother, even though they were separate in their beliefs, divided in their beliefs, divided by geography, no longer officially married, and yet, to the end of his days, my father in Italy, in his sitting room, opposite his favorite chair where he sat, had a huge framed picture of my mother in her robes on the wall. That was a kind of relationship. And the letters that they wrote to each other will bring tears to your eyes. That is a phenomenal human story. And as I said, if nothing else, read that chapter.
So Kabir is headed to the Kunzum bookshop there. You can pick up copies of the book, get it signed personally by him, and get a photograph clicked. But thank you, Kabir. We can talk forever. But then the rest of the stories are in the book where he's told everything.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to see all of you here. You have made my trip to Delhi. Thank you so much, guys and girls, ladies and gentlemen.